everybody. Can you hear me? Yeah? Okay, great. So I'm Amanda. I'm the International Campaign Development Director of Comic Relief in the UK. And this is Xander from the Gates Foundation, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And we're so thankful to you for hanging on and waiting for us and being patient, because we know you've had a long and amazing day, I'm sure, so far. But it's so exciting to be able to come and talk to you just briefly about Red Nose Day. And I'd love to get your views on whether you think something like this might be possible to do here in India. That's particularly what we're really excited and interested in. So I'm going to give you a very quick overview of what Red Nose Day and Comic Relief is about. Red Nose Day, that Emma just mentioned, is an event that is run by the organisation called Comic Relief. So we're a charity, we're based in the UK, and as she said, our mission is to create a just world free from poverty. And what we do, and what makes us different from a lot of other organisations, is that at the heart of our DNA is the idea of using entertainment to engage the mass public. That's what we try and do. So the person who founded Comic Relief in the United Kingdom is an amazing man called Richard Curtis. And I don't know, have any of you heard of the films Four Weddings and a Funeral, Notting Hill, Love Actually, Mr. Bean? Yes?
Blackadder.
Okay. Blackadder. Oh. Well, Richard wrote all of those movies, and he's an incredible genius of comedy, but he's also a man with a massive heart and a compulsion to make the world a better place. And I think, Shiv, you know him because of the work he's been doing on the Sustainable Development Goals and working with Global Citizen. And basically, he's just my hero because he's passionate about the ability to change the world, totally believes in the power of young people to do it, and he came up with this extraordinary concept, which was to combine the power of comedy to bring about relief and change the lives of people who live in a very disadvantaged way in our society. So, Richard started this, actually I'm going to tell you that in a moment, but basically what we do in the UK is we raise millions of dollars out through two campaigns, two big ideas. One is Red Nose Day, and the other one is sport relief. And what we also do is then when we've raised lots of money, we spend it in the best possible way to tackle the root causes of poverty and social injustice. And we're here at the moment because we're looking at some of the work that we've been funding. And it's been absolutely brilliant, I have to say. We've looked at some work with street kids, we've looked at some work on children's education, and it's been so inspiring to see it firsthand. And then the third thing that we do as an organisation is we use the power of our brand to raise awareness of the issues that we're all trying to tackle. And we do that using entertainment. So, what we'd like to think we're trying to do is increase the size of the cake of the number of people who are giving to charity and helping people. So we believe that because we're reaching out to people using the power of entertainment, we're reaching the sort of people who might not normally get involved in charity. They're not the activists. They're people who might take their first step with us because we're gently bringing them into the idea of being able to do good by using comedy and celebrities and entertainment to do that. So, next slide please, Xander. How it all began? Well, it all began a long time ago in 1985 when the famine happened in the Horn of Africa, and none of you were probably born when Live Aid happened. Put your hands up if you were born in 1985. Oh gosh. Okay, so an amazing man called Bob Geldof organised these concerts around the world, this massive concert, and it was the first time really media had been able to talk about a massive issue happening on the other side of the world and gain public traction. And what Bob Geldof did was he got all of his friends, Bob Geldof is a rock star, sort of, and he got all of his friends from the world of music to come together and do a massive concert which was broadcast all around the world. And what Richard Curtis thought when he saw this was, if Bob can do that with musicians, why don't I do that with all my friends from the world of comedy in the BBC? So that was his idea. And what he thought was, what I want to do is do an amazing show that gets the public excited about it and tells them about the issues and encourages them to give donations to help change things. And he thought, well, if I want to do that, how am I going to attract them in? And what he decided to do was pick the most boring day of the year. And he, on the back of an envelope, did some research and discovered that I think it was the 20th of February was the most boring day of the year. And so he then went to the BBC and he said, I want to take a lot of comedians to Africa, and then I want them to tell the world, or to tell the British public, what's going on in Africa, but I want them also to be funny. And the BBC thought this was the worst idea they'd ever heard of, but Richard never takes no for an answer. So he just badgered away at them until finally they said, oh, okay, we'll try it. And what he persuaded the BBC to do was to give him 7 hours of television on a Friday night. And he decided that in order to get the public to watch the TV show, he needed to create a way of getting them excited about it. And so he came up with the idea of making it a day where people could just be silly and have fun and have a laugh. And so he thought, let's get everyone to put on a red nose and do something silly and raise money. And then as their reward, they can watch the TV show in the evening. That was the kernel of the idea. But then, of course, in order to get the public to buy a red nose, you had to get a retailer to sell the red noses. So he started talking to retailers and so started to build the whole proposition behind it, which is basically that we get big companies to support Red Nose Day by selling products in a sort of 6-week period in the build-up to Red Nose Day. And then on Red Nose Day, everyone in the country goes a bit mad and does something really silly and raises money. And then they watch the TV show where we entertain them with the best comedy talent that we have in the UK. And then we show them films about what the money can do. And then they ring up or they go online and they make donations. So that's how it works. And we've done the same sort of thing with sport relief. So in 1 year, we do Red Nose Day using comedians. And the next year, we do the same kind of thing using sporting talent. But we still do an entertainment show, and we still galvanise the public, but we actually encourage them to do fundraising through sport rather than fundraising through being silly. So we do alternate campaigns. And what you can see here is that, well, what you can see on the next slide probably, is that we are now the UK's most successful fundraising event, and we've raised over $1 billion just from Red Nose Day. We've actually raised $1.5 billion through comic relief, doing both Red Nose Days and sport relief, which is a lot of money from a very simple idea. The last Red Nose Day raised over £100 million, which is phenomenal. 98% of the public in the UK have heard of Red Nose Day. 66% of schools get involved in supporting and doing fundraising for Red Nose Day. And it's the biggest Friday night of the year on the BBC. So it's become a phenomenon, and it's amazing how much the public love it. It's a bit like having another Christmas Day at a different time of year. So the next slide, I think, this is just very simply to show you how things have been going for us over the past 10 years or so. You can see we've grown as an organisation. We continue to be very successful. But I think perhaps the interesting bit of this slide is how the money comes in. So those companies that we partner with, the corporate partnerships, they're responsible for just over a quarter of the money that comes in. We have money from organisations like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation who support us, and then the money that comes in from the TV show is nearly a quarter. But the public actually do a huge amount of fundraising, and I think this is another really important part of our DNA. We try to be as inclusive as possible. When we sell a nose, we sell it for £1 or $1 in America, so anybody can afford to buy it, and the money from the nose goes to Red Nose Day. And it means no matter how much money you've got, we just want you to take a tiny step with us. So what we're about is multipliers. So basically, we encourage the public to get involved in however way they like, no matter how small, because we cherish every one of those. So what we get is millions of people supporting Red Nose Day in a very small way, and that massively bulks up. And what's happened as a result of that is that our parliament, our governments, regardless of whether it's been the Labour Party or the Conservative Party, have been able to point to the fact that Comic Relief has continued to grow its income over the years, to say the British public really care about what's going on in the lives of some of the poorest people in the world. We must stick to our support for international aid and development, and they've used us as a shorthand for saying the public, the great British public, actually care about these issues. Therefore, we as a government must also care about these issues. So what's been very exciting for me, and in my job, what I'm responsible for is taking Red Nose Days and sport reliefs to other territories. And we've been able to take Red Nose Day to a few countries, but the biggest one we've ever done was in America. We did our first Red Nose Day in America last year, and it raised just over $23 million. And we've done it again this year and raised $35 million. So we're really optimistic and hopeful that we might be planting the seeds for a similar kind of activity that can galvanize the public, from little kids, because they're the ones who want to buy the noses, right the way through to grandparents and everybody in between. Because it doesn't matter, whatever people can give, that's what we're looking for. We just want lots of people to share in the journey with us and help make really positive change in the lives of people who need it. So we're thinking about whether we could do it in India. And we know India is a completely different ball game. So that's something which we might not have time to talk about it now, but certainly we'd really welcome your views, your opinions, your ideas on how we might be able to make it work in India. Or if the time's not right, when could we do it? But hopefully the time might be right. And who should we partner with? So that's a challenge to you. And now I'd like to introduce Zander to talk a little bit about the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
So I'm working for the Gates Foundation in London, but I'm also on the board of Comic Relief and an advisor to the Global Citizen Festival. And so the Gates Foundation started off being very focused on technical issues like immunizing children or improving the seeds of farmers or figuring out how to do better fecal sludge management. And they realized that if you kept on talking about fecal sludge management, no one would understand or care. And it would be difficult for governments and others with large resources to address these problems if there wasn't public pressure and a general feeling that this is something that needs to be invested in. So over the years of the Gates Foundation, as it's evolved, there's been an increased focus on advocacy and public engagement and communications and campaigning as a very important tool to achieve the very specific technocratic objectives that the Gates Foundation has, whether it's around eradicating polio or malaria or HIV or reducing maternal mortality or improving fecal sludge management, that actually these sorts of issues, getting people to do silly things like spend the day dressed as a clown or wear a red nose or lie in a bath of baked beans. It might be hard in the first instance to understand how that links to improving or tackling malnutrition in a rural community. But actually there is a link, because when people like us care more about these issues and pressure our governments to actually take action on them, that does deliver change even at that grassroots level. And so that's where the Gates Foundation is interested in the model that Comic Relief has and the scale they've managed to achieve in the UK over the last 30 years. And it is remarkable that the British government... Is the video ready? Because I can just keep on talking. But it is remarkable in the UK that they've decreased government spending across all departments over the last 6 years because of the financial crisis. And the two areas of spending that have seen an increase are healthcare and international development. And Comic Relief is key for that, which is a beautiful segue into the video, maybe? I don't know.
Let me just tell you what the video, I think the video we're showing is just a highlights, which might show you, hopefully, a few famous people talking a little bit about Red Nose Day, and it gives you a flavour of what sort of stuff appears on the TV show. So, let's see.
What is Red Nose Day?
Oh, well, Red Nose Day is a great day when
all the Irish get together and punch each other in the face, and usually your nose starts to swell.
It's the day that you have a cold. You're sick.
Red Nose Day is there's Red Noses.
There's noses.
Red Nose Day. That's that punk band with like the British accents, but they're from like Jersey.
a day
kids. There's a television
Comedy,
element to the
charity,
whole thing.
laughter.
Laughter.
We celebrate all kinds of noses that are red.
To find out what it's really about, visit rednoseday.org.
Yeah, they're good.
Okay, so that's it. Would you want to take questions? Would that be helpful? Sure. Oh, okay. I mean, I don't know if this makes any sense to you, but yeah, we can show the next video.
Red Nose Day.
It's an important cause, which is why
we're doing that thing where a bunch of celebrities
are edited together
so that each celebrity says one sentence
or less of a heartfelt plea.
Or says nothing.
And just looks serious. Were any of us ever in the same room together?
No, we were not.
But is it pretty impressive there are so many of us? Yeah, it is.
Very.
And that we're facing in the right direction. Oh, sorry. Right direction.
That's impressive too.
But there are downsides.
Group pleas like this can leave celebrities who are used to being the center of attention feeling
underutilized,
superfluous, and insignificant. Also, sometimes
A person will try to get to the
bottom of a serious social issue and try to keep abreast of the solutions to it and bare our souls
as we ask for help.
But in the end, realizes embarrassingly that all they've said is
bottom
and
abreast
and
our souls.
It can be hard to understand why some of us get a ton of screen time and others barely get
any.
Or why the camera lingers incomprehensibly on
Some of us.
There has to be an explanation of why a major star sometimes just gets a one-syllable word to say.
While some guy who was in a sitcom years ago and died in Jurassic Park, of course, gets to go on and on and on.
The answer is...
It's not about ego.
It's not about us.
It's about
Red Nose Day.
Please.
give
What you
can.
thank you.
Seriously? That's all I got? On?
You were lucky. Bono just got a serious look.
So I can tell you, every single one of those people is a massive star in America. You may have recognized some of them, but not all of them. But I promise you, in America, every one of those people is incredibly famous. So, yeah, should we take questions? And I'm very conscious I haven't told you where we spend the money. So perhaps that's quite an important thing. When we do a Red Nose Day or a sport relief campaign, we spend a proportion of the money, 40 to 50% is spent actually at home in the UK, because we've got massive issues of social injustice in the United Kingdom. And we spend the rest of the money on international development in territories, a lot in Africa, but also in Southeast Asia and in South America. So the money goes against a strategy where we have 4 really important and memorable strands of activity. And it was only released about a week ago, so I'm not sure if I'm going to remember them, but it's about keeping people safe, healthy, and educated and empowered. And I think it's with women and girls, keeping children safe, communities, and something else. And I can tell you once I've had a chance to look at my notes. So on that note, I should open the floor for questions.
That's great. I think we're good for videos. But questions. Yeah. We'd really like your opinions about whether you think this could work, what your advice would be, what kind of thing you think would be interesting and would mobilize and be appealing to young people in India and where.
I might have missed it, but did the video include a hashtag?
It would have done at the end. So we massively go into overdrive in social media now everywhere we go. So it should have done. It should have had hashtag Red Nose Day on it. So, I mean, there are some amazing statistics from the campaigns we do around social media. This year with the TV show, for example, we did a whole load of Facebook Live stuff off the back of the TV show. So we had lots of the celebrities performing live on Facebook, for example. We had millions and millions of shares. We trended globally and worldwide and in the US on the day. So social media is very, very important to us, and we see it as becoming increasingly important. But we're very lucky because we've got so many artists who support us, who are prepared to do stuff for us in social. So it's great for us.
No, I was actually just wondering what what is covered on TV during those 7 hours, since a lot of this is to lead up to that,
Yes.
to sensitize people.
So we're not sensitizing people hugely through the TV show. Our program in schools is massively geared at sensitizing young people and understanding what the issues are about. But we recognize that most people on a Friday night are coming to watch our show because they want to be entertained. So in fact, what we do is every sort of 20 minutes, we show a film which tends to show this is the situation people are living in, this is how your money can help turn this situation into a very different situation. It can save lives through immunizations, it can encourage people's ability to increase their capacity and opportunity through educational learning. So that's how we do it. We have little films. There is one other video which perhaps could be circulated, which might give you a sense of how we show some of the imagery. But I think it's fair to say that the imagery we show in the TV show is designed to drive fundraising rather than so much driving awareness in itself. We do the awareness raising in the build-up rather than through the TV show.
But still, the night of TV will include a lot of celebrities going to developing countries. A few years ago, they took a bunch of sports stars and also TV personalities around. I'm suddenly huge up there, scary. But they took them around India and then played cricket matches against famous Indian cricket players, and then would also go and visit projects to talk about the impact of the work. So the aim is that it's not like a boring educational program, it's entertainment that happens to have a social message. And I think that's one of the things that's really important when you're considering how to talk about these issues, is that too often a lot of NGOs talk about development in a way that's only interesting to other people who work for NGOs and use language and acronyms and things that are boring. And I think the genius of Richard Curtis and Comic Relief, and starting from a place of how do I entertain people, that's what creates an emotional connection. That's what makes people care about these issues. It's not statistics, it's only one child that makes you care. I mean, we've spent the last 2 days with the CEO of Sainsbury's, which is the second biggest supermarket chain in the UK. And over the last 19 years, Sainsbury's has raised $150 million for Comic Relief, and a third of that money comes from their 160,000 employees. And what makes those employees do fundraising for Comic Relief isn't because their boss tells them to, it's because they believe in the idea that this money is making a difference, and that it's fun, and it's important to show that you care. And I think that's what this approach really succeeds in.
Thank you, Xander. That's a really brilliant way of describing it. And also, we've now been working with the BBC as our media partner for the last 30 years, and the BBC's support of our activity has grown over that time, so that now we are able to be involved in a lot more programming than just our single night on the night of Red Nose Day. So, for example, we infiltrate other program formats in the build-up to Red Nose Day. So we have the most successful show in the UK is the thing called Bake Off, which is all about baking. It's the public baking in a competition. And we do a celebrity version of Bake Off for Red Nose Day and for Sport Relief. And in the Bake Off show, which gets the highest viewing audiences of the UK's TV, we show little films which, again, talk about the issues. So we're sensitizing people through those. And then when we do a big project visit, like Xander was describing about the cricket tour to India, we'll also make a documentary about that and show that in the build-up as well. And we've introduced into the format now the idea of asking celebrities to do really scary challenges. So we've had very, very big comedians swimming the channel, or abseiling down cliff faces in beautiful parks in America. What else have they done?
I mean, have you heard of Eddie Izzard?
Oh, yeah.
He's a British comedian, and he's crazy because he did 27 marathons in 27 days across South Africa. And so, his toenails fell off, everything went wrong, he was really sick, the doctor told him he was going to die, he kept on running, and this was all on BBC Three, which is the digital BBC channel, and so people were watching it online because they just wanted to see if he was going to die, and he didn't, and it was, I think it raised about $2 million, but that's one of the challenges, is when Comic Relief started in 1988, everybody just only had 4 TV channels. And now, obviously, young people don't watch TV as much. Friday night's not such a big deal. And so we're having to get more creative and more disruptive in terms of how we think about trying to create content that people care about, because everybody doesn't just come home and turn on TV. And I guess is that true in India? Any more questions? We've been talking for a long time.
I mean, for example,
Okay.
is there a Bollywood star who we could persuade to swim the length of the Ganges or something like that?
They'd get really sick if they tried to
And
do
get
that.
really sick, because what we would then do is we would we would send a media team with them, and we would follow their journey the whole time, and we'd set up a text donate mechanism so the public can be texting to keep that celebrity motivated to keep swimming despite how ill they might feel. I mean, that's the kind of thing that, if you think anyone might do that, that would be great. Shiv wants to do it. Excellent. You'd all sponsor Shiv, wouldn't you?
Last question.
I think you just touched upon some of this, but I was curious to know how do you change your model as you expand to other countries? I think you were just mentioning some of this. In what other ways do you try to incorporate the social or cultural differences so that the model can adapt to the local particularities or peculiarities?
That's a very, very good question, and it's absolutely essential. So when you saw all that list of countries where Red Nose Day happens, we actually don't get involved with most of those, except the American one. What we do is we do workshops with the teams who are going to run Red Nose Day, so they understand our ethos, our values, and how to represent the brand, and how we've been successful, and the amazing mistakes that we've made that have cost us a lot. And then they go and create their own show, their own ways of raising money. And in America, we've now recruited an American team so that we are embedding the idea and the concept with our values and our ethos, but absolutely allowing the local people to take responsibility for making it culturally relevant. And also, of course, we also make sure the money is being spent in that territory and that it's being spent on projects that align with our mission and vision, but that will also appeal to the mass public. So we take massive care and interest in how we're adapting it for the different markets. It's a crucial component.
I was just wondering, because the difference between India and the UK and the US and most other countries actually is our sense of comedy and also the celebrities we have here. They're completely different from the UK and the US. What they're willing to do and what they're not willing to do are so different. So are you a little concerned that they might not be as aligned with the cause as maybe the UK and the US? I mean, the model might have to be opposite to what it is there.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
that's exactly what we need to understand. So we're in the process of conducting a feasibility study to try and understand how things might have to work here that would be different. I think the crucial thing for us is that at the heart of the DNA needs to be comedy and entertainment, because otherwise it's not really Red Nose Day or Comic Relief, and also that it has to appeal to the mass public and be inclusive. So as long as it's able to do that, then we'd have to find other ways. I mean, we rely on celebrities because celebrities is what drives the interest from the TV network, and because celebrities also drive the interest of the public. So the whole thing comes together traditionally around celebrities. So that's what we'd need to understand about bringing it here to India. But there might be completely different ways of raising money in India that we just don't know about, which would be fascinating to learn and understand. And what we learn here, we might then be able to feed back to the UK and into America and into our other territories as well. So it would be very much a two-way thing.
And I think just another thing to add is, you know, One Direction have done a huge amount for Comic Relief, and a lot of that is because when they were 11 years old, they went to school dressed in their pajamas. And so over the course of our lifetimes, you know, I'm 35 and I remember doing Red Nose Day when I was at school. And so it is a cultural shift. And so celebrities in the UK want to do Comic Relief when they get famous because it's one of the things that they can see and they can show that this is what, you know, this is part of what being famous means, that you do need to give something back and you do it in your own way. You know, Ed Sheeran sang a duet with Kermit the Frog wearing a red nose. But, you know, again, he's a young British guy. He would have done this at school. So I think in each country it would be very different. But the trick is to find a way of trying to change that social norm whereby it becomes a normal thing to do to demonstrate that you care. It's good to care and to give money, but if you're not willing to stand up and use your voice and to publicly declare this is something that's important and that this injustice is not going to be allowed to stand, until that happens, there isn't the pressure on governments, there isn't the change in public opinion to change that overall system. So that's the big dream, and you know your question is why Comic Relief hasn't done Red Nose Day in India over the last sort of 30 years, is because the risk of getting it wrong is too high. You know, you can only do something once for the first time. So if we want to do it, we should do it in the right way. But I think we're going to wrap up now. So maybe just before I do, a last question to you guys. Do you think something like this could work in India? If you agree, put your hand up. You don't have to, by the way. I genuinely, we'd rather have honest feedback. So I'd say that's enough. I mean, if you all promise to watch, that'd be good. No, so if actually everybody who put their hand up, if you could maybe write down or email to Shiv or someone at the foundation who you'd most like to see on Red Nose Day India, and where and with who the right type of partners and audiences might be. That would be really useful feedback for us. So I kind of tricked you into putting your hand up. But if you could do that, that would be fantastic. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And a big round of applause. Wonderful work that they're doing. Both Comic Relief and Gates Foundation are doing wonderful things in India and around the world. And Comic Relief, we hope to get you here very soon. I think you could see by the show of hands, there's massive enthusiasm. And we will help you with the 3 million children we reach at schools to create something that's user-friendly in the country that's culturally appropriate. You know, we have big programs like Swachh Bharat, clean the country. And you could have Red Nose Day, which is like Hold Your Nose Day, perhaps, and other things like that. So we could create it and make it humorous and funny. I wanted to tell you about a small coincidence that our close partner, our close friend that's working with us on the Global Citizen Festival is here this evening, and he was so excited to hear that you were coming this evening, and that's Sabas. Sabas, come and join us, please. And Sabas was your partner when you did the cricket thing here. So, so Sabas, please say a few words.
Interestingly, that I was in London when I saw the first time I saw the Comic Relief. And I worked with Julian Mercer and Flintoff and everyone. Alvin Kalichuran was the captain of the team. And it was an IFA celebrity cricket match we did at the Brabant Stadium in Bombay. And all of Bollywood and several television stars came together. And we played against this team that came in from London. And England was playing in India. And so Andrew Flintoff came from the Banquet Stadium to visit us in the Brabant Stadium. We had stadiums that were neighbors. So he came across, and finally that entire event was broadcast in India on Star Television Network. And just to let you know, we were very keen on getting Comic Relief to India. And we wrote in, but sometimes you don't get a response. But I have to tell you, it's the best fundraising campaign in the world. It is the best, and the things that they do, you get the red nose on the top of the BBC building. You get the red nose put up at various locations across England, and the entire city, the entire country goes berserk because Red Nose Day is as big as Christmas or New Year, because the country celebrates giving back, and literally giving back to people is something that has become part of the culture, and it's really the work that you all have done. So thank you.
Thank you.
tGELF, leading the change.